Spoiler warning. If you haven't played both Assassin's Creed Rogue and Assassin's Creed Unity and do not want those games spoiled, stop watching, play those games at your own leisure and come back when you're done. The video's not going anywhere, so I don't mind. In Assassin's Creed Unity, one of the weakest points about Arno as a character is arguably the lack of follow-up on his somewhat cliché action protagonist backstory. That cliché being that Arno's father was killed when he was but a young boy. And as he lives after the event, he somewhat blames himself for what happened. Something we've seen about 100,000 million billion trillion times before in the past. I know, nothing special, moving on. It's bad enough that it's got a cliche backstory that we've seen 100 million times in the past, but it's even worse that they later pay no mind to it and there's no follow-up. For example, Arno hunting his father's killer or at least looking for answers. However, as far as we're aware in Assassin's Creed canon as a whole, this does not happen, especially not in the game of Assassin's Creed Unity. What's funny is you play through the first sequence or so of Assassin's Creed Unity with Arno's father's death on your mind as the player, and then all of a sudden Arno's current guardian, Francois de Lesseire, gets murdered, and all of a sudden the entire game is about that. Then Arno spends the rest of the game trying to unravel the Templar conspiracy that had Francois de Lesseire killed. And although Charles Dorian does get the odd mention here and there throughout the game, there is no real reference to any information regarding what happened for Arno to discover, and he doesn't seem remotely interested. So Arno joins the Assassin Brotherhood some point during the second sequence, I do believe. I could be wrong, I haven't played the game's story in a while, but he joins the Brotherhood looking for redemption because he blames himself for not being able to prevent the murder of Francois de Lesseire. Presumably, that blame extends to blaming himself for the death of his own father. Understandable. But although he might blame himself, he doesn't seem to give a donkey's spiced fart about what really happened. On that fateful day, on the 27th of December, in the year 1776 in Versailles. So it's assumed that Arno really doesn't have a clue who even killed his father. But we know that Arno's father's killer was none other than the Assassin's Creed Rogue protagonist, the assassin turned Templar, Shay Cormac. And of course, by the time Arno is capable enough to investigate this, it's already a cold case. All he has is his memories, and they'd be quite fragmented by this time, as far as his own consciousness is concerned. And he wouldn't really have any leads, so in fairness, he'd be stumped for starters, even if he did try to investigate. And it's entirely possible that he did investigate in parts of the universe that are yet to be introduced into canon, in stories that presumably haven't been written yet. But let's face it, even if Arno had a lead to go off, he wouldn't know what exactly he was looking for. So Shay is completely in the wind at this point, say, around the events of Assassin's Creed Unity. If Arno looked into this, that wouldn't change that. But we don't even seem to see Arno get even remotely upset about the fact that he can't actually bring his father's killer to justice. But as we see in that drug trip thing from a mug that Arno took as a part of his trial to join the Brotherhood, Arno clearly blamed himself for his father's death. Because, as in that vision, he killed his father's killer within the vision, who bore the face of none other than Arno himself. Arno then spent the best part of the rest of the game unravelling the conspiracy that circled around the death of Francois de Lesseire, and never really paid much mind to his own father's death after that. So perhaps that trial cleansed Arno of his guilt, who knows? But Arno's father's killer, Charles Dorian's killer, is still out there. Does Arno care though? Maybe. Let's find out. The only theory I can really provide that might help make sense of it, and it's a pretty dumb theory considering that this is a make-believe fictional product, is that Arno believed the conspirators who killed Francois de Lesseire were also behind the murder of his father. However, if this was the case, he would have mentioned it, which he did not. So it's still a very flawed conclusion. However, I do believe it's less flawed than Arno didn't go after Shay because he just didn't. Because that's just outright terrible storytelling. And it's a shame that we don't really get any advancements on this trying to find out who killed Charles Dorian thing from Arno's perspective. I feel as if it's both a missed opportunity and it just makes Charles Dorian's death completely pointless. Having this intended crucial event that opens a story and not having closure for that crucial event is almost as pointless as a car exhaust grille. And I mean, had a couple or 3 sequences of Assassin's Creed Unity been about Arno investigating who killed his father, finding out it was Shay, hunting down Shay, finding out he's nearby at this point for some reason, and then having them have this showdown would have been much cooler than just forgetting about him. And it would have been closure for both the beginning of Arno's story and Shay's life. That is assuming that Shay gets killed by Arno, which I'd consider highly unlikely considering that Shay's pretty well skilled. And I mean, logically, it would probably be unlikely that it would ever get to that, but there's no evidence of Arno trying to unravel the mysteries around who killed his father. And if I'm honest, that's just a little bit irritating because it's a big opening, crucial point of the story, and they don't follow up on it. But like I said before, I'm sure Arno did actually try to find out what happened in Versailles on that day, but we haven't seen it in any canon material yet. But the magic of Ubisoft is they'll underwrite their characters when they make them, but they'll write stuff in later. So in a few years' time, there may be a comic book, say, documenting Arno investigating his father's death, trying to find out what actually happened, out of curiosity if nothing else. Come on, come on. And maybe in a comic book we might see a confrontation between Arno and Shay, which would be pretty cool if I'm honest with you. Because, I mean, Shay Cormac, he was born in the early to mid 18th century. However, he would have only been 69 years old at the turn of the 19th century, which was pretty old back then, but he was a Templar, he was in peak physical condition, and he was, as a Templar, probably very wealthy. So I'd imagine that Shay's still knocking about at the turn of the 19th century somewhere, so that confrontation isn't 100% unlikely. And a showdown, even if it is in just a mere comic book, would be quite interesting to find out about, and it would also provide closure for both Arno's opening story, the opening to Arno's story, and Shay's life, presumably. Considering Ubisoft's use of external media like comic books and things, they could probably go ahead and do this if they wanted to. And of all the random stories of assassins that we see in the games but in their later lives in the comics, this one would probably make the most sense, so I would really like to see it, you know? But this is only what I would personally like to see happen towards the end, sort of thing. I'd like to see this in a comic book, them do this. You might disagree, but please do let me know in the comment section. But thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know what you think about this. What do you think should Ubisoft do regarding this? Do you reckon they should leave it as is and have people theorize what might happen? Or do you think they should fill the blanks a little bit and give us an ending to these stories? Please do go ahead and let me know what you think. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter for some good times, I promise. I'm full of them. I'm the life at parties. And I'll see you all very soon with another video.